In the small town of Clinton, Ontario, rests a rare and unique rail car. This rail car didn't carry the typical cargo or passengers you might expect. Instead, the Canadian National Railway School on Wheels Number 1 carried, you guessed it, a school classroom, as well as a living quarters for the teacher and their family.
In the mid-1920s, a recent graduate named Fred Sloman began a teaching job in Northern Ontario. At the time, Krugerdorf, which is where he was teaching, was only accessible by rails. No roads connected the community with the outside world. This was pretty common at the time.
In a big country like Canada, there still are places like that.
Because these areas were fairly small settlements, it wasn't practical or affordable to have permanent schools or even teachers around. Because of this, many children weren't receiving that great, if any, of an education.
So Fred Sloman seemed to notice this problem right away, and he wasn't the only one. Together with J.B. MacDonald, the region's school superintendent, an idea was brought to Ontario's Department of Education. Work soon began on converting an 1898 CNR coach rail car into both a classroom and full living space for Sloman, his wife, and their children. Now, this isn't that car. In the year 1940, a 1914 Crossan car manufacturing company car, one of the last wooden passenger cars to be made, was converted into both a school classroom and a living quarters for the Slomans. So this is the second rail car that the Slomans lived in.
So in 1926, the Canadian National Railway School on Wheels number 1, with the Slomans on board, began the pilot project for bringing a better education to northerly communities in Ontario. Here's how that worked. The school car would be parked on a siding.
A siding is like a little offshoot from the main railway.
Yeah. It'd remain there for about a week, and the students would come each day, like a regular school, and get their lessons in time with the teacher. Even with school coming to them, it could still be quite the journey for the children to get there, as there may not be roads connecting everything. I imagine it would have been a pretty lively classroom, both because it was something new for the children who may not have ever been in a classroom before, and also because it would have been students of all ages like other one-room schoolhouses. Just this one was on wheels. At the end of the week, the students would be left with enough homework to get them through to the next time the school car would be in their community. And the CNR School on Wheels would be hooked up to a train engine and pulled to the next community along the route. This particular school car traveled the rails between Capril and Folliot, which was about a 240-kilometer route. The children weren't the only ones benefiting from the Slomans' teachings. Parents would come for night classes on a variety of subjects and skills, or even to watch films on the school's projector.
So it was seen pretty quickly that this project was a success, and within a couple of years, a second school on wheels was added. By 1938, there were 7 schools on wheels servicing the communities of Northern Ontario. Now, when they weren't teaching, Fred Sloman and his wife Seela were raising a family. They had 5 children, and they all lived together in this section of the train car. I'm sure it wasn't an easy life. They had no running water, they had to keep the fire going and the icebox cold, but from the accounts we've read, life was good for the family. The children also went to class on the school car, and when the day was over, they got to explore nature in Northern Ontario.
The Slomans taught in their moving schoolhouse until they retired in 1965. The program only went on another couple years after that, but what had started as a 6-month pilot project lasted for 40 years. They retired in Clinton, where they spent their summers off from the school car.
So fast forward almost 20 years, and a former student,
Or a friend of the Slomans, depending on where you read it.
yet they could have been both. Point is, they found the old school car rusting away in a Toronto rail yard. So fundraising began to purchase the car and bring it to Clinton to be restored. After some structural repairs, it did make its way here and was restored by volunteers, bringing it back to how it would have looked during the years the Slomans taught and lived in it. You can now visit the CNR School on Wheels in the Sloman Memorial Park in Clinton, Ontario. We had a wonderful tour guide when we visited with lots of interesting facts about the school car and life on it. If you're interested in learning more or just seeing this unique and historical railcar in person, make sure to add it to your summer destinations.